So I'm Jess, Jess HD. Come on up. I promise I won't bite. There's like 6 of us in the room. All good. And a little bit about me. I work at YouTube. I work at the spaces at YouTube, and I oversee creator and diversity development programming. So essentially my entire job is just to work with creators. And when I say creators, anyone can be a creator. It doesn't matter whether you have 2 subscribers or if you have 10 million subscribers, and I've worked with everybody under the sun. If you're a creative and you are creating something that goes online or goes into a larger format, you are a creator. And I essentially help people understand how not only how creativity works, but also how to up-level it. So I derive a lot of joy from like helping people be creative. So I can't see my screen. I promise I'm just going to talk through this because awesome, wonderful. So things I can't talk about. And I'm just going to put it out there because I have to remember my PR training. I cannot talk about monetization. I cannot talk about ads. I cannot talk about any issues. I cannot talk about Article 13. I don't deal with platform stuff. So that's actually a really cool part of my job. Is like I don't have to worry about all the rules and regulations. I mean, I do in the sense of who I work for. But when I talk to creators, I'm really focused in on creating. Not about how ads work, not about what systems work, how people make money, what gets restricted, what doesn't get restricted. I just get to focus in on the craft and the skill, which to me is like a really fun playground. But I always bring this up because a lot of times when people want to talk YouTube, they want to talk about larger issues, and I'm like, hey, that's not my playground. All right, so as I said who I am, but just more about me. I actually have a background in film and TV. I went to university in the States. I live in the States, in LA. I have a BFA in screenwriting. So my background is where I started is I'm actually a writer. Been writing since I was 10. Who's a fan fiction reader? Anyone? You don't have to be shy. I love fan fiction. I think fan fiction is amazing and wonderful, and it's actually what most screenwriters do. No, dead serious. So think about it, is when you write a pilot spec, you guys know what a pilot spec is? When you have to write a spec pilot of a show that's already on TV, what is that? It's fan fiction. It really is fan fiction if you think about it. So I have my background in that. I've been writing since I was 12. Went to school for screenwriting. I do ghostwriting on the side, which essentially means I get hired to come in and punch up stuff. So whether that's dialogue, whether that is looking at like a narrative structure, stuff like that. So that's like my side job. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. As I said, I love fan fiction. I love reading it. I love writing in all different formats. So my expertise is in narrative structure. How do you make really good content? How do you tell a story? I'm also an active member of the LGBTQ+ community, if you didn't figure it out, like we're all getting here, hopefully of some spectrum. I call myself a 100-footer. You can tell my sexuality from 100 feet or 100 meters away, unless you're blind, and even then you could probably tell. But I'm married. I have a 4-year-old who is a very fun handful. And so I'm also a parent, which means I don't sleep and I run on caffeine. What else did I mention? Oh, and so I've worked for a multitude of companies. So I have wrote narrative, design, and structuring for video games. I've worked for Atari, Ubisoft. I worked for Nike for a very long time on the Fuel Band. Anyone remember what that is? Or Nike Plus Running, Nike Plus Basketball. I specialize in non-linear structuring, content development. And then before YouTube, I was actually working at larger Google, and this is going to sound totally made up, but I worked for a creative think tank. So I was brought into big companies to come in a room and essentially teach them how to ideate. So, hey, Pepsi, they want to do something crazy with Beyonce and the Olympics, and in VR, what could we do? And so that was totally my job, to come in and like just be like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna, like, you could do X, Y, and Z, and here's how you could do it in VR, and here's how much it could possibly cost, like, you know, excluding your like rights to Beyonce. But let's just, yeah, and kind of teach people how to be creative. So I did that for 4 years. It was a lot of fun, and then I shifted back into YouTube to be closer to content. All right, so does anyone know what a space is? No? YouTube space? Yes, there you go. Okay, so we are a creative community. I love that you mentioned London because there is an amazing YouTube space here, right here in London. I was actually there earlier this week. So we have 10 spaces worldwide. If you have 10K worth of subscribers, which seems like a big number, but it really isn't in the grand scheme of things. Once you hit that number, you unlock all the spaces for free. We are a free creative resource, which means you can come in and you can book equipment, you can shoot in our spaces for free. You just have to bring in your production crew, you guys have to bring the creativity, we supply the tools. We also have tons of events and workshops. That is all falls under my remit as well. So we run workshops, I design programming. I essentially get to be a kid in the candy store of thinking, hey, that's really cool. I would love to have X, Y, and Z come in and talk. Awesome, wonderful. They're going to give me money to like figure it out and do it and put it on. So I would say this, if you don't know anything about the spaces, look into it. It's a really, really awesome space. So they're essentially movie studios, but they're just for creators. So we create these creative communities for you guys to come in, to work, to talk to other creators, to essentially up-level your creativity. And so I oversee all the Americas creative spaces. So that is LA, New York, Rio, and Toronto. But we're a global team. All right, and I just kind of talked through this, but in long story short, my wheelhouse is helping people be creative. What that means on a day-to-day is I watch a shit ton of content, and I curse, sorry, that's just me. I'm not gonna censor myself, I know I'm being videotaped, but they can read me out later. But so I essentially watch a ton of content. I consume a lot of content, whether that is TV, film, web series. I love web series. You're reading stuff, audio, podcast, just on a daily basis to see what's working and what's not working, who's being creative, who's not being creative. I watch a lot of YouTube. I clearly think I would, but you'd actually be surprised, a lot of people don't. And I utilize that as my tool set to then help people be creative. So I work with a bunch of people that come from creative backgrounds, and all of us have one core objective, is to help creators make better content. Again, love what I do. It's a lot of fun. So, good stuff. Who is a creator here? Anyone have a YouTube channel? Okay, well, hopefully you don't have to have a YouTube channel to take what I'm about to tell you guys. No, I'm dead serious. No, it's very true. So I think a lot of times people think like, okay, well, I can only talk YouTube. I'm not going to talk YouTube. I'm going to talk actually very basics that might seem like obvious things. You'd be very surprised every time I talk to someone. They're like, ah. These are like fundamentals across the board of if you want to have a position within the digital creative realm. So that means how does someone become a, use the term influencer or creative entity or following? How does that occur, right? Part of it is magic. Part of it is luck. But there is a very basic fundamentals that you could follow that most people don't realize that they should do in order to essentially get your name out there, essentially be a good citizen within this like creative digital realm. All right, so anyone know who Lily Singh is? Okay, since you can't see my screen, and I'm really sorry, I wasn't expecting not to have the connection. So this is actually one of my favorite quotes from Lily Singh. Awesome creator, super insanely talented. She does a lot of scripted comedy, and it says, unless you're standing in the middle of a blank piece of paper, unleash your inner architect and design your path to success. Get wild, be creative, and don't get distracted by the flow of traffic. Traffic sucks anyways. And that's the truth. Honestly, that is the truth with creativity, is the biggest roadblock you're going to have is yourself and distractions. Okay, right? Again, I'm talking, everything I'm going to say, you'll be like, yeah, I know that, but people forget it, right? Because they're like, oh, I couldn't do that, or oh, I could never make a web series, or I could never write a novel. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And I would challenge that to anyone. It's like, no, you totally can. You just have to figure it out. Like, but it's true. There's no exact science to it. Like, most people that you have seen that have done that have just figured it out. And we're at a point in society now, even like 20 years ago, we've the wealth of information at our fingertips. So if you want to achieve something or figure out how someone's done it, it's all right here, like literally on a computer. And you can kind of look it up and you can kind of do your own homework. So anything is possible to being creative. It's just you're going to be your own worst enemy. And once you acknowledge that and kind of like say, yeah, like, you know what, I didn't hold myself to writing X number of words today. Well, guess what, tomorrow I need to. Like that, you are your biggest roadblock. All right, so, does anyone know who Ari Fitz is? Okay, I love Ari Fitz. If you guys don't know Ari Fitz, Ari Fitz is an amazing queer woman. She started out as a model, then was on The Real World. Then decided that she was like, you know what, I've had enough of someone else telling my narrative. I'm gonna start my own channel, and that's what her channel is about, is her own narrative. And she does it very, very well. She has a very strong viewpoint on who she is, what she represents, what she doesn't represent. Now, here's my question to you guys. Do you know what an elevator pitch is? Well, what's an elevator pitch?
It's basically what would be your pitch if you very short amount of space, very quickly, that when you meet someone during the elevator, right?
Exactly. So that's actually where the name comes from. Imagine you're in an elevator and the most famous person walks in, or your biggest idol, or someone that would give you the best opportunity possible. And you have from the ground floor to the 5th floor to tell them who you are, what you do, and why you matter. Can you do it? So that's about creating your own brand. And you would actually be surprised, even the most successful creators, most of them cannot do this. And I would say to anyone that wants to be a creative entity in life, in general, you should know who you are. I am X. What you do. What is the one thing that drives you? And that it doesn't have to be your career. It's like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Like, what drives you in life? What is your passion? And then why you? And trust me, everybody should have a why you. And I will challenge anyone that says, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be me. It does need to be you. Why are you the right person to be telling X, Y, and Z? To be creating this painting or to be creating this amazing video? Like, everybody has a voice. Everybody has something unique to say. Own it and like let it show. So I work a lot with creators, and this is something that I work with everybody on that wants to be creative, is knowing your pitch. At any given time, you should be able to say to someone, hey, I'm such and so. I do X, Y, and Z. And you know what? This is why I do it. Once you're able to kind of get that rhetoric down, when you do have that chance that occurs, and it will occur sometime in your life, you'll be like, oh, and not like stumble through it or not know what to say. You'll be like, oh, I've got this. It applies to every aspect of your life. Not even just being a creator, being able, and no, I'm not, you can laugh about it, but it's very true. So being able to walk in a room and saying, you know what, fuck it. Like, there's a great book, again, I'm sure they're gonna have to bleep out every word I say, but there's a great book called Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. If you've ever read it, you should read it. It's amazing. It was life-changing. There's some really good TED Talks about it as well. But it's essentially saying, you know what, here's who I am, here's what I do, and here's why I matter. And if you don't agree with that, that's okay. You're you, I'm me, but I'm going to own it when I walk in this room. And I'm going to make sure that everybody's listening. It's terrifying to do, but if you practice it enough, it becomes second nature. So that when you do meet those people and you're like, oh, I have 5 minutes to gain this person's attention, to make them lean in, to offer me X, Y, and Z, or to maybe strike up a conversation that will open a door or a window. The more you can prepare yourself for that, and the more you can be ready and kind of confident in that way, you'll be able to seize those opportunities versus like, oh my God, I could never talk to that person, or oh my God, I'm gonna like run away. Conferences are a great example of that. There's so many amazing people walking around that you're probably like, oh my God, I see her over there, I'm never gonna talk to her, oh my God, she's famous, she's awesome, wonderful. Guess what? They're people. They put their pants on the same way as you and me. Like, and once you kind of, my computer's frozen. But once you kind of practice your like branding and your own elevator pitch, and I will say watch Ari's videos because she owns it in every room that she walks into. It will feel less scary to go up and talk to someone because you never know what's going to happen. Let's see. There we go. You guys know who Alice Mills is? Oh, you guys have a lot of watching to do. Okay, so Alice Mills is another amazing queer creator. Comes from Canada. She, her coming out video kind of skyrocketed her. She was doing all this really cool stuff, She has a really unique style. Like, it's awesome, wonderful, super creative, and she made a coming out video to essentially say I'm bisexual, because she was getting so many questions about, like, what's your sexuality? And it blew up. And when I say it's not the normal, like, I'm gonna cry in front of a camera, I'm gonna tell you I'm gay, she tells stories in ways that I've never seen done on YouTube. She also, and I will say, why I have her picked for this is owning your own passions. Can you guys name what you're passionate about? Someone asked you. No? Probably. You probably after a while think about it and be like, okay, well, I really like X, Y, and Z. Own what you love. Don't be afraid of it. Like, don't apologize for the love of God and all. If you don't identify as female, that's perfectly fine as well. I identify as female. Women have a tendency to apologize for what they love, or apologies in general. Don't apologize for what you love. You know, if you happen to be a geek about a certain show, own it. Okay, because that's what everybody has passions. But the more you can harness that love and that passion for something, let that be kind of your batteries. Because being creative and being creative on a regular basis, especially as a creator, that you're gonna have to churn out creativity at a rapid rate or at a consistent rate, your passion's gonna drive you in those moments that you're like, you know what, I can't do this. Or, you know what, I just don't know what to do next. Knowing what your passion is and where you derive your passion from will help you get through those kind of like the writer's blocks, or like, I just don't feel creative at the moment. For me, it's TV and film. As I said, I consume TV and film at such a rapid rate because it's what drives my creativity. So when I'm hitting a writer's block, when I'm like working on a script, or I'm working on a short story, or I am trying to help a creator solve a problem like of their overall like narrative or structure, I turn to TV and film because that's where I derive my passion from. That's what started me to be a creator, is because I love that and I wanted to do that. So I know that that's my battle. Find your battle. Figure out what it is and own it. Like, just, I mean, you don't have to scream it from the rooftops, but being like, yeah, I love X. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. It's what drives me. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. For me, it's new gay content. Like, I'm like, awesome, wonderful, right? But it's like, once you hear that there's, oh my God, there's gonna be a queer character on the show, I'm like, give it to me. Like, I am gonna sit down, I'm gonna binge watch it. Like, I just binge watched Haunting of Hill House. Anyone seen it? Okay, so not a huge horror fan. It is so good. It is scary, but it is so, so good. Or Atypical is my other season 2 of Atypical. I will tell every crew to go watch it because it is actually probably one of the coolest, subtlest stories I've ever seen done. And amazing queer representation, and one of the actresses is openly queer. So my other big thing is supporting queer actresses that are playing queer roles, because that is very rare to see. So find your passion. So here's the other part. Do your homework. Okay, so if you want to be creative, do you support creatives? Do you watch creatives? You'd be surprised how many creators don't watch other creators. Crazy, right? Or subscribe to other creators. Or figure out, okay, so I have a lot of creators that will happen as they plateau, or they like can't figure out, they're like, okay, well I can't figure out how to get more subs. And I was like, okay, do you watch other creators? They're like, no. Okay, I was like, all right, well, or they're like, I don't know why my videos aren't doing well. I said, okay, here's a quick test. Does anyone know how you could quickly test why your videos are not doing well? Without any analytical tools. Well, you could ask. You can also, YouTube search is probably your biggest friend. Just general YouTube search. And I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So, say I do travel videos, and I'm like, my travel videos have plateaued, and I don't know why. And I don't know which travel video I want to do next, like which place to go. And I'm actually giving you a real example that I sat down with creators and like walked them through how to do this. And they said, we have 2 places that we want to go next. We're not sure which one's going to do better, and we can't afford to pick the wrong place because we're going to put a lot of time and money and energy behind this, but we can't figure out which one would do better. And they feel like I looked at all these analytical tools, and I said, okay, we're going to do an exercise. I'm going to take you guys through it as well, which is kind of crazy that you can do this very simplistically. I said, okay, what's your sub count? They gave me their sub count. I said, okay, we're going to do a quick search for travel channels similar to you in the same sub count. And they're like, okay. So we pulled the top 10. Same type of content, same sub count. So they're peers. And I wouldn't say competitors, they're peers. Never think of someone as your competitor. They're your peer. So, okay, your peers are doing X. Now let's break down their video. Let's pick one channel that's doing well. And we're going to say, oh, they went to the same 2 places that you're considering. What were the view counts of those videos? Write them down. How better or less better were they compared to the rest of the videos that they've done? Look at that. Then start looking at their tagging and how they title those videos. You will start to find correlations of what does well and what doesn't do well. So if you do that for all 10 channels, so say all 10 channels went to Rio and went to Munich, right? And you start to realize that all the Munich videos did better than the Rio channels, the Rio videos. So, granted, it's not like exact science, but survey says you should probably go to Munich over Rio if you're going to put your money into it. Now look at all the Munich videos, and then they said, okay, great, Munich it is. How do we know to do something different? You want to figure out how we figured that one out? So we took all 10 Munich videos, and I said, what's the one thing that they all have covered, or like see the commonalities, and what haven't they done? And they were like, oh, well, most of them haven't done drone shots. I was like, okay, so maybe that's something to put down. Well, they went to X places, but they didn't cover this one specific place. There you go. You start looking for things, look for patterns. Again, this is not exact science. Yes, it's great to have analytical tools, and yes, they will give you a deeper dive into things, but anyone can start to figure out why things work and why things don't work. Simple trends. You just have to do your homework. You have to know who's making what and who's doing what and why they're being successful. And you'll start to see patterns in why someone is doing better than someone else. And sometimes it comes down to they're really fucking good at what they do. They found a format that works for them. Anna Akonda, who, if I had this up on the screen, and this presentation would have been way better if we had it up on the screen, is actually one of my favorite creators as well. She just came out as queer, which was awesome. She does this very well. She has a very specific formatting with her videos. She knows her audience very well, and she does a lot of homework. And when I say a lot of homework, I have sat down with her, and she has numbers. Like, she can tell you exactly how well her videos have done. She can tell you which videos have not done well. She can tell you exactly who's in her demographic and what creators are very similar to her and what they're doing and what they aren't doing well. She can run through the gamut. But because of that, she has also leveraged that to grow her channel and grow her brand. Because then, when she talks to brands, when she talks to larger industry people, join us. Trust me, we're a small group. Very friendly, won't bite. But when she talks to industry people in general, she can also talk to the data and analytics behind what she does, not just the creativity. And that's truthfully the real successful creators that you see, and creative people in general, is they can talk to both. They're not just like, oh, I'm creative and eccentric, and I'm going to go stand in the corner, and I can't really talk about like why this matters and like why a brand or why a larger entity should weigh in. They can talk to both the analytical and also the logical and the data-driven side of it, and they can talk to the creativity side of it. And they use both to fuel each other. I would say great that you have a gut instinct, but back it up with numbers. Because then you can say, yeah, my gut said X, and guess what? I did my homework, and it's right. All right, anyone watch Girl Ship TV? Yes. I'm actually really good friends with Amanda. She is amazing. They have a wonderful channel, but more so why I have them is they are probably one of the best channels I've ever seen for supporting and promoting other creators, right? Anyone watch Drunk Lesbians Watch? No. If you haven't, I know it's a funny name, but it's an awesome, awesome concept. Essentially, they get drunk and they watch bad LGBTQ+ content together, like really bad films, and give commentary on it. The cool part about Girl Ship TV and Amanda is that her channel naturally supports a multitude of other creators. Every single video, there's someone new from our community on there. And yes, she did start in BuzzFeed, and she does have a wide network, but as I said, I know her. She is cold calling people. Like, she is picking up the phone and going, hey, I don't know you, but I know your channel. You want to come on and do X, Y, and Z with me? And she doesn't have a fear, like she has no fear when it comes to that. Because like, what's the worst that could happen? Someone say, no, or they don't respond to an email. If you want to be part of this community, if you want to be a creator in any kind of digital realm, you need to support other people. You need to be willing to collaborate, willing to openly support without gaining anything back, right? I mean, it's again, these are basic tenets in like life in general. And promote other people. Be willing to promote other people, promote things you love without expecting something back in return. When people do promotion that is essentially, you can see it for the wrong reasons, it doesn't feel authentic and real. And it doesn't make people, and trust me, people know. And they're like, okay, well, I really don't want to work with you because you're just doing stuff to push yourself forward and you don't really want to help me or support me. When you help others, people are willing to help you. Again, these are like this is like what I teach my daughter. But it's so funny when you talk to people more often than not, they're like, oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. It's like, yeah, email someone. If you want to make a really good video and you want them to possibly make a video with you, why not ask? And that's how she grew Girl Shift TV from 0 to, I think they're like now almost at 200K subs within a year. Their ClexaCon panel was crazy. Like, and they did it last minute, and was anyone at ClexaCon in Vegas? Okay, so they were like fucking out the door. Like it was, no, I'm dead serious. There was a room like maybe a little bit bigger than this, and they literally had standing room all over and people out the door. And it was all because they're like, we love your channel because A, it's so clear, but B, they have a multitude of people that she's like brought in. She's like, come to my apartment, get drunk, and we're gonna watch this really bad video. We're gonna videotape like what we think about it. Easy concept, but she's constantly reaching out to new people, constantly bringing new people on, and constantly supporting their work and their efforts. And it shows, and it pays. And if you haven't watched her channel, I cannot support it enough. It's wonderful, it's amazing. She does amazing web series as well. Clearly you can see I practice what I can preach. All right, last one. Ingrid Nilsson. Anyone? Anyone? All right, so big part, and if you've already picked up on this, is taking risks. Like, without risks, don't come great rewards. Like, you have to take risks. Most of these creators take a lot of freaking risks. And guess what? You're gonna fail. And it's gonna suck. But as I tell my 4-year-old, what do you do when you fall? You get back up. Again, and again, and again, and again. And it is very scary to take risks, especially in the digital realm. Because you're not just taking a risk and it's like, oh, 6 people saw. It's like, I'm taking a risk, and I'm taking a risk in front of like what? Like thousands? Hundreds of thousands? Millions? Depends on how fast it blows up on Twitter, you know? But the people that really succeed and the people that become amazing creators and just amazing influencers in general, look at risk as a learning opportunity. Look at failure as a learning opportunity. I love failure. And I know most people would never ever say that, and they look at me like I'm fucking insane. But failure is the places where you learn. Because if you succeed, you're not learning anything new. You're just learning that like what you did worked. When you fail, there's like a shit ton to learn from, right? You know, decisions you could have made better, why this didn't work, what was the blowback from it. Like there's so many ways to like improve. And that's with that improvement, with that kind of, and does anyone do software development? No? Okay. So software development is test and iterate. Again, logical we're talking about, but it works for creativity as well. Test, take a risk. So why use Ingrid for this? Does anyone know Ingrid's actual background? Yes, but before that, she actually had a deep-seated fear of public speaking. So she started her YouTube channel to get over her anxiety of public speaking. I mean, total weird way to start a YouTube channel. I think she's gotten over it by now. But it took off because she took a major risk. She put herself out there and said, you know what, I'm gonna test this and see if it works and see if it helps me gain confidence, if it helps me in regards of owning who I am. She hasn't always succeeded. Most of the creators that I listed in here, most of the creators that I know, most of them have had big failures. I mean, like epic, big failures. But again, the ones that keep growing, the ones that keep iterating are the ones that pick themselves back up and say, okay, what can I learn from this? Like, yes, I will say what my grandma says. Take your 5 minutes to kick the damn furniture, scream, cry, do whatever. No, but it's true, like, right? Because live in that for 5 minutes. And then pick yourself back up and get a damn game plan. And most people don't do the second part. They like wallow in it, they cry, they, you know, it's like a bad breakup. They like spend months like analyzing it. It's like, okay, you can do that, or you can learn from it and say, okay, what am I gonna do now, and what am I gonna do better? And to me, being a creator, there is no exact science. I tell that to anyone. When they're like, okay, well, what's the magic bullet to like hit the algorithm? Or what's the best tag I can use? And I'm like, I don't know. And then they look at me and they're like, well, what do you mean you don't know? And I'm like, well, I don't. Because every piece of content's different. And every creator's different. So there is no exact science. And I think that's the thing that most people need to realize when it comes to like creators in general and creativity, and especially being on digital content, is there's some basic tendencies that you can do in regards of what I just walked you guys through. Taking risks, knowing who you are, owning your passions. These aren't exact science. This isn't I can pick up a book and learn X, Y, and Z and I can become a, 100 million followers overnight. This is just how creativity is done. And then the rest is kind of just luck. And I know, people hate when I say that, but it is very true. Is a lot of it is luck, but it's also seeing those opportunities, those lucky opportunities when they come and taking them. Because everybody gets lucky opportunities. For me, I hate to hear what people are saying, well, you're just luckier than me. Not true at all. Luck happens to everybody. Opportunities happen to everybody. But most people are too afraid or too scared to take it and see where it leads. And the ones that do end up usually becoming really successful. All right. I think that's it. So I'm going to open up to you guys. And I would have showed videos, but I'm teeny tiny and small. So who do you guys watch? Like, what do you love? Don't be shy. There's like, again, as I said, there's 6 of us in the room. You can come up here too.
Queer content, like anytime I see queer content, like it, like yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned like Amanda and Girlship TV. Especially, they bring a lot of people, which I end up like watching their stuff, but it's also really interesting because it's a really low budget value. Like when you watch it, super low budget.
So you want to know something crazy? She shoots it in her, well, she just moved, but she shoots it in her, like, literally apartment. That's her couch.
Yeah. And it shows. It is what it is. It's not like those very produced YouTube videos that like they have the halo of light, they see like, no, it's just like very
creative.
school. But like, yeah, it is creative and it is innovative, and like, yeah, I do get texts like, hey, did you see like the new like Girlship TV video? It's like, yeah, it was good.
So it's being creative with the resources you have sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't have to have these big budgets to do something creative. There is amazing creators out there and a lot on the rise that are doing things that are so super creative, and I'm just like, but they're low budget. They're just looking at it differently. They're telling a different story. They're figuring out a way to tell their own narrative in a very unique way. I forget the name of the creator I just started following who went from 0 to 1 million subs in 3 months. Right, and everybody's like heads are spinning on how she did it, and her videos at first glance are like so old school, first gen like YouTube videos. I'm in my bedroom and I'm gonna film about X. Like they're so random, but then when you watch a little closer, she's almost making fun of those videos. Like she has like a weird sensibility and style that I'm like, that's why someone picked up on her and she spread like wildfire, because they seem so random and arbitrary, but they're not. Like, she's actually pretty smart about what she's doing. And it's a form of comedy. And it's not what we're normally saying. She found something different, and she's owning it. Anyone else? What else do you guys watch? It doesn't have to be a web series. It doesn't have to be YouTube. As I said, I watch everything. So, no one, okay, so no one watches anything. They just sit at home, stare at the wall, one with nature.
I mean, I watch a lot of videos from different things, like from graphic design to well-being and eating healthy. So I couldn't just name
one.
Because it's practically my TV is watching TV like YouTube.
Yeah.
And I have all the type of content I need from YouTube.
So that's actually the larger industry trend right now.
Yes.
Is that people under the age of 30 are consuming more content digitally than on any other platform. And that is, you know, if you were in Alexa's legacy, they were touching upon that as well, is that is where we are heading. And that's why I always say to people is like, when you're thinking about being a creator, like TV, film, those are amazing formats, but so is digital. And we're able to tell stories in a digital format that we have never seen told before. And a lot of that's because we're not tied down by antiquated systems that are run by, and I love me some white guys. Like, I love me some straight white guys. There are some amazing allies, but, and I would use a big but, is that when you have 95% of the people at higher levels making those decisions in the same demographic, the same race, the same sexuality, all those formats, you're not going to get variety. You're not going to get different stories being told. And that's what's really cool about YouTube and digital in general, is that we have the ability and the power of these minorities to be able to rise up and tell their stories without kind of those barriers. And that's, for me, I'm a big proponent of web series. I actually sponsor a lot of web series. I work on a lot of web series. I talk about web series till I'm blue in the face. Because we're seeing representation there that we've never seen before, right? Like, and that's why people are like, oh my God, that web series is amazing. Because that story hasn't been told. Because someone was able to tell it because they weren't held back by someone else. They weren't told, that's not exactly what we should be telling. It's like, no, I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to tell it from this viewpoint and I'm going to have the representation I want to have.
How do you get, for example, if I wrote like a web series, how could I give it to you or anyone at YouTube to be like, to pitch it or something like that?
Well, so I'm not part of the pitching. I'm not part of YouTube Originals. So that's the other medium that I don't sit in. So I just help you guys make content. I'm supposed to be content agnostic. I will say this to anyone. I'm Jess HD on every single social platform. So that's Twitter, that is Instagram. You make something, you send it to me. I am more than happy to help promote it in any way, shape, or form. And that's the truth. And you can ask after you can ask Amanda, you can ask a lot of other queer web series. For me, especially, again, I practice what I preach. So more often than not, if you see me on social media, I'm usually raving about something I love randomly. And I'm not expecting anything in return. I'm usually like, oh my God, I love this podcast, or oh my God, I love X, Y, and Z, or, you know, because I do think we should talk about that and we should openly share what we love, because that's how we find out about these things. That's how people gain a following. A really great web series is 20, the series. Have you guys seen it? Okay, so Lily and Caitlin are amazing. Lily actually is the main actress in it, and she's also the writer. And her girlfriend is the producer. And I stumbled across it because someone shared it with me during season 1, and they were doing, I think it was during season 1, they were doing a Kickstarter for season 2. And my wife and I essentially like made a deal a long time ago that we would pick our own organizations once, like every year, to what we wanted to donate towards. We're big believers in donating and like giving back to our communities. And so we kind of split like whatever amount that we say we're going to donate this year to. And part of my amount always goes to web series. So I actually am a big believer in funding content, you know, because $10 goes a really long way when your stretch goal might be $2,000. And what is $10? Like 3 cups of coffee, 2 cups of coffee. And if you're buying Starbucks venti, it's probably 2 cups of coffee, not even. And sorry not to use pounds, but, or whatever. I use dollars, but when I do global work, I'm usually converting on real time. But yeah, so if you think of it that way, like that goes a really far away. So I use a lot of like our like bucket of money to support content. So I actually kickstarted, or like I added to their Kickstarter, and then I reached out to them and I was like, hey, do you want to come in and have coffee? And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, come in and have coffee. Like, I love what you did. And we did. They ended up shooting part of season 2 at our space. They not only did that, they came to our web series workshop that we did with ClexaCon in June and talked on the panel. Actually ran a panel about their anatomy of the scene. And you know, they just were up for a major award. This last one, I don't think they won, but they were like nominated with web series that were like very, very higher up. And it's like, I didn't have to reach out, but I did, because I was like, that's awesome. That's how we find each other. Like, it's how we grow our queer community, is by openly supporting others and like kind of pushing out work and reaching out and saying, what can I do to help? Even if it's like, hey, I could PA for you for free, or hey, like I'm happy to like, I write for this blog. Happy to do a piece on X, Y, and Z. That's why I would say it goes both ways. So like, feel free to like reach out and like support others, and or you can say, hey, I made this really cool thing. Can you help me? And you'd be surprised most people are willing to help. You just have to ask. I think people get really scared about asking. It's like, oh my God, I can never reach out to X, Y, and Z. And like, I've learned this 10 times over. There's like maybe 1 or 2 assholes that like just don't respond back. Most people are like, yeah, sure, I'm more than happy to, especially if it's queer and we're supporting each other. Like, and again, rare to find someone that's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to support queer media, and I'm part of the community, which that would be just weird. What else do you got? No, nothing.
I'm doing all the questions.
No, that's okay. No, please ask another question.
I come from Chile, and in South America, like web series don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, so I see an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like trying to do something, because I'm studying a master here on education and technology, and I've seen that EdTech hasn't arrived to schools or anywhere. Like, you need money. So I'm thinking that maybe a way around is like creating content on a horizontal level, so it can like create a community that asks for the apps, and that way you can reach and give education to people that doesn't have.
But that's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's find the things that are missing, especially, and I always say that with our community in general and just communities in general, if you're not seeing it and you're seeing it somewhere else, find a way that you can help and you can promote it. You can shoot a web series on your phone. One thing I would tell everybody when it comes to like shooting content, do not skimp out on audio. Phones shoot great content. Like, you don't have to have the biggest, baddest camera. If you have fucking crappy audio, like, people tune out in 5 seconds. Funny, right? Because you'd be like, oh, you should have good graphics, you should, and yes, those are all like parts of it. Bad audio will screw you over.
Yeah. Like, it's the same with barrier of language.
So sometimes yes. I would say that if you are looking to do content, do it in your native language. Subtitles work. Like, it's okay. Like, I love watching people do their content in their own native language, if they want to. If you want to do it in another language, awesome as well. I don't think language is a barrier. Bad audio is. And people will be like, oh, well, it was language. It's not the language.
So you have experience with working with other language?
So I cover all the Americas, so I cover South America as well. And then there's counterparts to me in EMEA, which is London, and APAC as well. So we have studios in APAC, we have studios in Europe and Dubai.
Europe, what does it mean?
Okay, so let's see if I can do these. The top, okay, 10 places. So it's, mine are LA, New York, Toronto, Rio. Then there is London, Germany, France, Dubai, Mumbai, and Tokyo. On top of that, we have something called pop-ups. Pop-ups essentially mean that if we don't have a space in a certain location, we'll pick random locations depending on the market and like the need of those endemic creators. So we just did one recently in Mexico City, we did one in Nashville. We'll pick places globally that we aren't going to open up a space, but for 2 weeks at a time we'll come in and we'll essentially offer everything that we offer to that community. So we'll essentially take over like a convention space like this and like have the ability for you to come in and shoot content or take a workshop or attend one of the events as well. But there are, my team's a global team, so we have representation in all the different regions. So.
And would you feel that it's not having a crucial impact for audience and the language of the content?
So it depends on the type of content, more than the language. And I would always say that is certain types of content do better in web series than other. We naturally lean towards sci-fi for some odd reason and like fantasy. I don't know why as a queer, if we're just talking queer content in general, we naturally lean towards those genres. And there is a heavier demographic in web series with drama than there is comedy. Language, I don't have any numbers to exactly prove if it is a hindrance or not. I just know from a lot of people that I speak to, like, people are willing to watch stuff in other languages. And there's huge endemic creator communities. And when I say endemic, that means like within that given language. So usually more often than not, if you're trying to go international, you can either choose to you do it in your own language and use subtitles, or you could choose to do it again and maybe do voiceover in another language if you want it.
And a lot of content that is in English gets subbed in other
Yes.
languages and people will see it. And also, there's a web series, I'm from Brazil, and I've been talking a lot because there's not a lot of queer content in South America, but there's a web series called Red.
Which is amazing and wonderful
yes.
and fantastic.
Yes.
I love them.
Yes. And it's from Brazil, and it is in Portuguese, and it's going really well and really widespread.
Yes. And people watch it.
Yeah.
If it's good, and I will always go back to, if it is good, the language will not matter.
Yeah.
And that is something, it goes across the board. But I will use a caveat, audio matters.
Yeah.
Anything I can hammer home with you guys, and I know I keep saying it over and over again because it's a pet peeve of mine, because I'll be watching something, I'll be like, oh my god, their audio level just completely changed, and like, it just sounds crappy and horrible, and now I'm brought out of the story that I just like immersively went into. But you know, if you don't have the equipment, I'd say if you have an iPhone or Android, shoot really good video too. Again, you can tell a good story. It doesn't have to be like massive budgets, and you can be creative about it. So, of course, go for it.
Yeah, about the language and because English is my second language, and my English actually is so poor. Yeah, and now I am trying to show some short videos, and but I want to use English because I know I have to improve my English.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also worry about because my English is poor, so maybe the audience they don't like it because the language.
Well, have you thought about owning it? So then what I say about that is I actually just worked, so we run this program called Next Up, which is an awesome creator program. Essentially, it is a boot camp for like up and coming creators. And we just did 2 of our first diversity ones, which is awesome. Diversity is part of my job, remit. Clearly I care about diversity, if you didn't pick up on that one. But we ran one for Latinos in the US market. And we actually had a creator that did his videos as he learned to speak English. And he made it part of his brand. And that's what I mean, own it. Like, share it. Like, this is gonna be, like, whatever type of videos you're making is awesome and wonderful, but share that part with your audience. Because they'll come along on the journey with you, and as you improve, they're gonna cheer you on. And that's what he noticed too, is he's like, yeah, it was kind of really cool to see like my watchers like be like, oh my god, like you've improved so much, or oh my god, like, you know, X, Y, and Z, and like sharing kind of that bit of authenticity with them, and like a little bit of who you are and like why you're doing X, Y, and Z. People will lean in and like want to see you succeed. So I would say that if you want to do your videos in English and you want to improve your English because of that, then make it part about what you're doing. Share it with them, you know? And it does, again, you could make videos about like Decropod. Actually, he was like a designer. So he was like, it wasn't like, oh, come learn English with me. Like I only speak Portuguese. He was like, no, like I'm making this beautiful bouquet, but by the way, like I'm working on my like English, and this is how I'm learning to speak English. Like, so it was a really interesting hybrid of like, he does DIY videos, like that's his like bread and butter. But the second part of that was like, this is why I'm doing these videos. And he actually then started doing videos in both Portuguese and English, which was really cool to see as well. So he was telling us that he gets a lot of stories about people coming up to him then and saying, thank you, like you made me want to improve my English or learn a second language, and like you made me feel comfortable about it. So again, I would always say like don't scare away from, like don't shy away from it. Like say, okay, like this is why I'm doing it, and come along with the journey with me. Anyone else got anything? No? Well, I'm gonna thank you guys because it's not easy when you have 5 people in there. I actually prefer it.
You said you prefer it.
I do prefer it. It is a little intimidating. Well, can you imagine you hold a panel and you're like, I'm gonna talk to all 3 of you in a really big room.
You can record that and put it on.
But here's the thing is like this is actually, so I do a lot with ClexaCon, and if you're attending any of the big panels tonight, you'll see me on stage, and like I like doing the big moderations. I actually prefer doing this. And I know people probably look at me crazy because they're like, you get to go talk to X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, but this is a lot more, like this, to me, this is fun. Like this is why we do why this, especially this type of convention matters, is for us to have conversations to help support and promote each other. So, thank you. Again, if you guys ever want to reach out to me, I'm on all social medias as Jess HD. I do respond to everybody.
Cool.
What?
Cool.
Yeah.
Is it possible to get names from your presentation?
Yes. You want me to write down some stuff?